All right, BS Live Rocks, Bobby and Shane Radio Insider Series. Special guest, Garrett Goodwin on the phone, who's now spent, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years right now touring and playing with Carrie Underwood. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me. I look forward to chatting with you.
Listen, I know you've been busy, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time here today. Let's start with this. Why don't you give us a 2-minute briefing on Garrett Goodwin and maybe where your passion for drumming came from?
Absolutely. Like you said, I've been with Carrie for close to 9 years now, and before that, let's see, I got the gig I tried out when I was 19 years old. So before that, it was a short thing, but I grew up playing in church. I grew up traveling around with church groups, church bands. I eventually moved to Nashville when I was about 17. My family was super supportive, and they actually moved up with me, which was awesome. And continue to play with some Christian bands, church bands, things like that. And eventually, right place, right time, met the right person, got connected where I needed to, and got a tryout for what I'm currently doing. So the rest is kind of history. I've been doing clinics now on the road, lessons, whatever I can with the platform I have. I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for some guys stepping out and putting their name on the line for me. So I kind of feel the same way about doing that for other people and helping out however I can.
Was there ever a moment when you said, though, drumming's going to be my living? Like, I mean, you said you played in church bands and such, but you know, that's kind of one of those, I'm going to be a musician in my life, and your family goes, no, you're not, you're going to get a job.
Right. No, absolutely. You know, like I said, I had super supportive parents, and, you know, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I didn't have the parents that said, you know, you have to go to college, you have to do this, you have to do that. They said, you know, if you want to pursue this for a while, do it. And I don't know if I'd recommend that. I don't know if I wouldn't recommend that. I'd say get an education, and if music works out, then great. But for whatever reason, it worked out for me, and yeah, I think I had moments in my life where I went, man, is this going to work out? What am I going to do? But again, it was such a young age where I wasn't even really in that mindset yet. I just knew that I wanted to play music. I knew that I was going to do whatever I had to do it, at least for a while.
Right.
And if it didn't work out after that, then you know what, I'd figure it out, you know?
That's the best way to do it. If you just wing it, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else.
Right.
You know, we all become better and stronger after we experience different bumps or setbacks in the road. What were some of those that you've learned from in your career?
Yeah, you know, a good story I always tell whenever I'm talking to people is it's kind of really how I started playing drums. When I was 11 years old, I told my parents, I said, hey, I want a drum set, I want to play drums. And so they got me drum lessons at the local music store, and I went in the first week, and the teacher gave me lessons. I went back the second week, and he said, all right, play what I taught you. And I did what I could. I didn't know. I've never picked up drumsticks in my life. And the teacher said, man, you'll never be a drummer. Don't worry about coming back next week. Those were literally his exact words to me. And me being 11 years old, it, you know, messed me up. I went home and I was crying. I just want to play drums. You know, like, what's the problem? And, but you know, that was, even at a young age, something that affected me always and stuck with me. And, it drove me even more than ever to want to do it even more. And, I think that was probably one of the biggest things, even at such a young age.
Well, see, you're an inspiration then for me, because I'm 47 years old, and my band still tells me, you're never going to be a drummer, don't come back tomorrow. And I still go back. So, I mean, this is great. We have something in common here.
That's awesome.
I think one of the questions that everyone would ask me to ask you is, how in the world would you manage to get a gig with Carrie Underwood? I mean, she wins American Idol. She's one of the best country and pop superstars in the world. And give us a little bit of an insight, maybe a brief insight. And were there auditions? You mentioned connections with people, which is obviously important. And was it important to be in a place like Nashville or LA or New York, those big markets?
Absolutely. I think being in a place where music is thriving is huge. Nashville right now, New York and LA definitely, obviously, still has music scene. Nashville right now is, and has been for the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years, really exploding in that sense. And a lot of people think it's just country music, or it's not. It's so much more than that. There's rock music, there's pop music, there's folk music, there's Christian music, there's everything there at this point. And I think being in a place like that 100% is a huge key because, like I said, connections and meeting the right people. Everybody in Nashville is like-minded. And you can look at that as, there's so much competition. I'm just a small fish in a big sea, but that's a mindset, there's a million other drummers in Nashville trying to get on a gig or trying to be a session player, or same with guitar players, bass players, but it's all about what you want, how bad you want it. I can truly say, I'm not the best drummer in Nashville. I'm not the best drummer out there at all, but I wanted it. I knew what I needed to know. I could play, I could do key things that are important in being in a band. And things like that, which, you may think, oh, I've got to be the best drummer in the world to get on a gig. It's so much more than that, and, it's so much about meeting the right people and being in the right place at the right time because, that's what's gonna, as far as tryouts go and things like that, that's how they happen. It's not like a cattle call where they just say, all right, every drummer that hears about this, come and we'll try you out. It's like, hey, my buddy over here is a killer drummer. He's not doing anything right now. Have him try out on your gig. I'll back him up. And that's really how most positions come to happen. So it's pretty wild how it works.
Were you nervous, going into this whole thing with Carrie? Like, you were young?
I was young, so I didn't. It was the first tryout that I had really been on. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really have anything in mind. As far as playing goes, when I went in to play, I wasn't nervous. I just went in, I played like I play. I did what I thought was good. I wasn't trying to be, the drummer on the album or the drummer that was there before. I wasn't trying to do those things. I just went in and did what I do. And it worked out for me that way. So
that's a good segue into my next question was, you don't play on any of her records, do you, right now?
I don't. Nashville's, it's interesting when it comes to that. It's very producer driven when it comes to studio band. Right. If an artist really, really, really wants their live band on the album, they'll do it. But most of the time, it's like the same, say, 3 or 4 drummers on a majority of the albums in Nashville. And I can't say I know why it's like that, but it is. And from my experience of doing session work, it's very producer driven. Even if there's a band coming into a session that I'm playing on, if the producer is like, hey, I really want my guy on it, then I'll be on that session. You know what I mean? So it's interesting how that works, but it's just the way it is,
How close do you have to play to the record? And I ask that because, different people, like some guys or girls want, hey, you need to bang on, play this drum fill or this riff or whatever it is. And some artists just say, you know what, you're playing in the band, make it work, make it feel good, make it entertaining. What is Carrie's take on how you or the rest of the band play in compared to how the record is written and produced?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you said, you nailed it. I mean, they hired us because they trust us, and they say, do what you do. We hired you for a reason, so do what you do. and that's an awesome thing because, like you said, I've been on gigs where I've had the artist turn around and say, "You didn't play that drum fill just right. Like, you missed one," and that can be tough, especially in a industry where it is, a lot of different guys playing on albums compared to playing in the live band.
Right.
So it's amazing that it is that way, and it is very free and very trusting.
We're speaking to Garrett Goodwin, who's been drumming for Carrie Underwood for 9 years now. And if you don't know Carrie Underwood, then you're living under a rock. Blown Away, one of my favorites. Little Toy Guns. Love that tune. Two Black Cadillacs. Some great songs by Carrie. And how about for you? What is maybe one of your favorite songs to play live? And I want to know what's your least favorite right now to play live. You got to have one.
That's tough, man. That's a tough question. Little Toy Guns is a really fun one to play. One of her new ones called Dirty Laundry is a fun one to play too. It's dynamically, it's a fun song and a little bit different than some of her other stuff as far as drum parts go. As far as, all of it's so fun to play. That's such a tough question. We do a cover song right now. It's called Fishing in the Dark. It's an old song. I couldn't even tell you who it's by right in a second, but I'd have to say if I had to pick a song, that's my least favorite to play on the night. But at the same time, it's tough because it's a time where the opening bands come out and sing. So it's kind of a fun time at the same time, if that makes any sense at all.
Now, when you play a lot of award shows, because obviously Carrie wins a lot of awards. How far in advance do you know the song that you're playing? Is it like, 10 minutes before you go on, by the way, we're going to play this song, or is it days in advance, or does it really matter at this point?
No, it always depends. We obviously have a good idea. There's rehearsals and things like that. So we have a good idea what's going to happen. But at the same time, we know the stuff, so we could kind of, if it was 10 minutes before, it really wouldn't be that big a deal. We could get up there and nail it. So.
Aren't you guys the best? Garrett Goodwin.
Come on, no.
Oh, come on. You know what? This is a great question someone asked me to ask you. What's, let's say, a typical touring day? What's a day in the life of Garrett Goodwin as you're going to play, let's say, the Air Canada Centre in Toronto? Like, what would a day for you be like? I mean, obviously, people are setting up your stuff in that. I guess it may depend, but what would be a typical day?
Yeah, a typical tour day is pretty easy for me. The thing with being on the road, there is a lot of downtime. There's a lot of sitting around, and then all of a sudden, it's like, all right, you got to be here at this time and do this right now. So it's funny how that works, because you'll even say a late show, a Tonight Show, a thing like that. It's like you sit around most of the day doing absolutely nothing, kind of waiting for it to happen, or an award show, and then all of a sudden you're on stage, you play a 3-minute song, and it's like all this energy, and then all of a sudden it's over. And it's 3 minutes, and then it's done. So it's kind of funny how that works. But, a typical touring day, it drives me crazy sitting around. I go nuts. So on a day, if, my tech is in there setting up, I'll go help them change heads or go help them set up just because I want to do something. I've been doing a lot more of Skype coaching and Skype lessons and different things like that, just to, like I said earlier, because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy helping other guys, try to get to where they want to be. But at the same time, for me, it helps me with a day. It helps me with time because, like I said, sitting around drives me crazy. So, I'll try to do that some. If I'm in a city where there's some guys that want to get together and grab coffee, I'll do that and just talk about drums, things like that. And then, there's a sound check at some point in the day. And then, there's some hangs leading up to the show, and then we're out on stage playing it, and then we're back on the bus heading to the next city.
Clearly,
so,
you've gone to the school of Rich Redmond, haven't you? I can tell.
Well, yeah, Rich is killing it, man. Rich is the man.
And he's all over the place. He's Skyping, he's tutoring, he's just doing everything. I know.
He is. I can't keep up. So
I'm going to ask you one more question, then we're going to take a short break, if that's cool.
Okay.
What was it like for you when Carrie told you, or whoever told you, that she was having a baby, and now you're thinking, okay, here I'm in support of this large act. Obviously, you make money from that, and now you know that you're going to have to take a break. What was that like for you?
With doing all these clinics and Skypes and things like that, it really gave me a chance to focus on that stuff a lot more. Like any musician in Nashville, you kind of have to be flexible with, if you're just a side guy or just playing with an artist, you have to be flexible with that stuff. And it's all about keeping up with relationships. And so, I did some gigs, I did some showcases, I did a good amount of session work in that time off. So, your first thoughts are, okay, what am I going to do now? But at the same time, that's why I try to continue to do these things while I'm on the road, so it doesn't just hit me out of nowhere, and I have a little bit of momentum going when we do come off the road. So it's good, though. It gives you time to work on some other things, and it puts a little bit of pressure on, which I think can be a good thing at times, is having a little pressure and pushing you to maybe step out and do something that you wouldn't normally do or have wanted to do for a while, but you haven't had time, or things like that. So, it was a good time for me to work on some of those things.
Awesome. Garrett Goodwin, who's been on tour 9 years now with Carrie Underwood. Stick around. We have more right here on Bobby and Shane Radio.